I am Maya Torres. I am 28 years old and a graphic designer. Or at least, I was until 2 weeks ago when everything fell apart in the most humiliating way possible. But before I tell you about that terrible day, I need to take you back to where it all began. Because the truth is, my story started long before I ever walked into that corner office to hear those words that would change my life forever. 3 years ago, I landed my dream job at Pinnacle Creative Agency. It was one of those sleek, glass-walled offices in downtown Seattle with exposed brick, standing desks, and a coffee bar that served 12 different types of lattes. I remember my first day so clearly. I wore my best navy blazer, carried a leather portfolio my mother had saved up to buy me, and walked through those doors believing I had finally made it. The agency handled major brands, tech startups, and fashion labels. Their client list read like a who's who of the business world. And somehow, miraculously, they had chosen me. My boss was a man named Marcus Holloway. Tall, always in designer suits, with slicked back hair and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He ran the agency like a military operation. Everything was about efficiency, profit margins, and billable hours. During my interview, he had looked at my portfolio with an approving nod and said, "You have talent, Maya. Real talent. But talent alone doesn't pay the bills. Here, we turn creativity into capital. Can you do that?" I had nodded eagerly, desperate to prove myself. I had no idea what I was agreeing to. The first year was magical. I worked on campaigns for restaurants, boutique hotels, and local businesses. I loved the creative process, the late nights brainstorming with my small team. The moment when a client's face lit up seeing their vision come to life. But slowly, I started noticing things that made me uncomfortable. Marcus would pressure us to inflate quotes, adding unnecessary revisions and fees. He would take credit for our ideas in client meetings. And worst of all, he showed zero interest in the actual people we were designing for. To him, they were just dollar signs. I remember the first time I pushed back. We had a client, a small family-owned bakery run by an older couple who had been in business for 30 years. They wanted to refresh their brand to attract younger customers. Marcus quoted them $15,000 for a basic logo and menu redesign. I knew it was too much. I had seen their books during our consultation. They were barely breaking even. After the meeting, I approached Marcus in his office. "I think we're overcharging them," I said carefully. "They can't afford this. Maybe we could do a scaled-down version." Marcus looked up from his computer, his expression cold. "Maya, we're not a charity. If they can't afford quality work, they shouldn't be in business. This is how agencies operate. You want to succeed here? Stop thinking like a social worker and start thinking like a professional." That word, professional, it would come back to haunt me in ways I never imagined. But that day, I just nodded and walked out, feeling small and naive. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too soft for this industry. So I tried to harden myself, to see clients as Marcus did, as transactions rather than people. But something inside me kept resisting. That resistance led me to start doing something secret. Something that would eventually cost me everything, but also save me in the end. Late at night, after everyone had gone home, I would stay in the office and work on projects for clients who couldn't afford our rates. The bakery owners became my first secret clients. I redesigned their entire brand for free, working until 2 in the morning, fueled by terrible coffee and the feeling that I was finally doing something that mattered. When I presented it to them at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, the wife cried. The husband shook my hand so hard I thought he might break it. "You have no idea what this means to us," he said. No idea at all. But I did know. Because for the first time since joining Pinnacle, I felt like a real designer again. Not a salesperson. Not a con artist. A designer who actually helped people. That feeling was addictive. Soon, I was taking on more secret projects. A struggling florist who needed new packaging. A food cart owner who wanted a logo. A nonprofit that couldn't afford agency rates. All of them after hours. All of them for free. All of them hidden from Marcus and my colleagues. I told myself I was being smart about it. I never used company resources. I worked on my personal laptop. I met clients outside the office. But the truth was, every secret project pulled me further from the path Marcus had laid out for me, and closer to something I couldn't quite name yet. 6 months into my secret side work, something happened that should have been a warning. I was working late on a Friday night, alone in the office, finishing a logo for a food cart owner named Hector. He ran a small taco stand downtown and had been trying to expand. His old logo was hand-drawn, faded, and outdated. I was redesigning it with bright colors and clean lines that honored his Mexican heritage while looking modern and fresh. I was so absorbed in the work that I didn't hear the footsteps behind me until a voice made me jump. "Working late, Torres?" It was Vanessa Kim, one of the senior designers. She was brilliant, ambitious, and completely loyal to Marcus. She had been at Pinnacle for 7 years and had climbed the ranks by doing exactly what was asked of her without question. We had a cordial relationship, but I never felt like I could fully trust her. I quickly minimized my screen, but not before she caught a glimpse. "What was that?" she asked, moving closer. Her perfume was expensive, something floral and sharp. "That didn't look like any of our current projects." "Just playing around with some personal work," I said, my heart pounding. "Trying out some new techniques." Vanessa studied me for a moment, her dark eyes calculating. "Personal work. On a Friday night. In the office." She didn't say it like a question. She said it like she was filing the information away for later. Then she smiled, but it was the same smile Marcus wore. Sharp. Knowing. "Well, don't let Marcus catch you. You know how he feels about using company time for anything that doesn't generate revenue. Even after hours." She left, and I sat there shaking. I should have stopped then. I should have realized the risk I was taking. But the next morning, when Hector called me crying because his permit had been approved and he needed the new logo for his grand reopening in a week, I couldn't say no. I met him at his cart that Sunday, handed him a USB drive with all his new branding files, and watched his face transform with joy. "Miss Maya, you are an angel," he said, pressing the USB drive to his chest. "An actual angel sent from heaven. How much do I owe you?" "Nothing," I said. "Just promise me you'll make the best tacos in Seattle and treat your customers like family." He laughed, wiped his eyes, and made me promise to come to his grand opening. I did. And when I saw the line wrapped around the block, saw families and couples and business people all gathered around his little cart with its bright new logo displayed proudly, something inside me shifted. This was what design was supposed to be. Not corporate presentations and inflated invoices. This. Real people. Real impact. Real community. But back at Pinnacle, the walls were closing in. Marcus had been pressuring me to focus exclusively on high-value clients. He assigned me to work on a campaign for a luxury watch brand, a project worth over $100,000. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I felt hollow. The creative brief was shallow. The target audience was vague. The whole thing felt like empty prestige with no soul. During one particularly tense creative meeting, Marcus asked me to present my initial concepts. I had stayed up for 3 nights working on designs that I thought captured the essence of craftsmanship and time. I was proud of them. When I finished my presentation, the room was silent. Then Marcus spoke. "This is too emotional, Maya. Too personal. Our client doesn't want touching stories about watchmakers. They want aspiration. Luxury. Status. This looks like something you'd design for a local artisan, not a global brand." My cheeks burned. Around the table, my colleagues avoided eye contact. Vanessa smirked slightly. I gathered my boards and sat down, humiliated. After the meeting, Marcus called me into his office. He closed the door, which was never a good sign, and gestured for me to sit. "Maya, we need to talk about your trajectory here," he began. He sat on the edge of his desk, arms crossed, looking down at me like a disappointed parent. "When we hired you, I saw real potential. But lately, I'm concerned. You're not showing the hunger I expect. You're resistant to feedback. And frankly, your work has become too soft, too sentimental. This industry rewards boldness and business sense, not bleeding hearts." I wanted to defend myself, to explain that I believed design should have meaning beyond selling products. But something in his tone told me it wouldn't matter. So I just nodded and said I would do better. He seemed satisfied with that and dismissed me with a wave of his hand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Marcus's words. Too soft. Too sentimental. Not hungry enough. I had been trying so hard to fit into his vision of what a professional designer should be, but it was like trying to squeeze into clothes that were 3 sizes too small. Everything felt wrong. Everything hurt. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Hi Maya, this is Iris Adler. You helped my flower shop last year with new signage. I got your number from Hector. I hope that's okay. I have a friend who desperately needs design help but can't afford agency rates. Would you be willing to talk to her?" I stared at the message for a long time. The smart thing would be to say no, to focus on my actual job, to prove to Marcus that I could be the designer he wanted. But then I thought about Iris's flower shop, how it had gone from a dusty corner store to a neighborhood gem after the rebrand. How she had sent me flowers every month for 6 months as a thank you. How she told me I had saved her business and her dream. I texted back, "Of course. Happy to help." The next day, I met Iris and her friend at a small cafe in Fremont. Her friend's name was Natasha Williams, and she ran a small nonprofit that provided job training for formerly incarcerated people. She needed a complete brand identity, materials for a fundraising gala, and a website. At any agency, this would cost $50,000 minimum. She had a budget of $0. "I know this is asking a lot," Natasha said, her voice shaking slightly. "Iris said you might be willing to help. The gala is in 6 weeks. If we can't raise money there, we'll have to shut down. 60 people depend on our program for their second chance." I'm desperate. I looked at her tired eyes, her worn coat, her folder of handwritten notes about her vision. I thought about those 60 people trying to rebuild their lives. Then I thought about Marcus's luxury watch campaign, about billing hours and profit margins and empty prestige. "I'll do it," I said. "All of it. You'll have everything ready for your gala." Natasha started crying right there in the cafe. Iris squeezed my hand across the table. And I felt that feeling again. That sense of purpose. That knowledge that I was using my skills for something that actually mattered. Walking back to the office that afternoon, I felt lighter than I had in months. But I didn't know that Vanessa had seen me at the cafe. She had been there meeting her own client, sitting in a back corner booth. And she had watched the whole thing with great interest. The next 6 weeks were brutal. I was working on the luxury watch campaign during the day and Natasha's complete brand overhaul at night. I barely slept. I lived on coffee and granola bars. My eyes had permanent dark circles. But slowly, beautifully, Natasha's brand came together. A phoenix rising from ashes. Colors of hope and redemption. Typography that was strong but compassionate. Every piece told a story of transformation. I met with Natasha 3 times a week, refining everything. She would bring people from her program to give feedback. Former inmates who were now carpenters, chefs, and mechanics. They would look at my designs and tell me what resonated, what felt true. It was the most collaborative, meaningful work I had ever done. Meanwhile, the watch campaign was a disaster. I couldn't connect with it. My designs felt forced and lifeless. Marcus kept sending my work back for revisions, his notes getting sharper each time. "Where is your passion, Maya?" "This is phoned in. This is amateur hour." I wanted to scream that all my passion was going into work that actually mattered, but I just nodded and tried again. The night before Natasha's gala, I put the finishing touches on her materials. Invitations, programs, banner designs, a video presentation, everything. It was nearly 3 in the morning, and I was working in my tiny apartment, surrounded by coffee cups and sketch papers. When I finally closed my laptop, I felt a mix of exhaustion and pride that brought tears to my eyes. This was my best work. Ever. The gala was on a Saturday. I wasn't supposed to attend, but Natasha had insisted. "You have to see what you created come to life, Maya. Please." So I went, wearing a simple black dress, standing in the back of the hotel ballroom, watching as donors and supporters filled the space. Every banner, every program, every slide in the video presentation was something I had made. And it worked. People were moved. They were inspired. By the end of the night, Natasha had raised over $200,000. Her program was saved. She found me afterward, mascara running down her face from happy tears, and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You did this," she kept saying. "You saved us. You saved 60 lives tonight. Do you understand that?" I did understand. And driving home that night, I felt something crystallize inside me. This was who I was meant to be. Not someone chasing corporate clients and padding invoices, but someone who used design to actually help people, to build community, to create change. The question was, could I keep living this double life? Could I keep pretending to be the designer Marcus wanted while being the designer I actually was in secret? The answer came Monday morning. I walked into the office to find Marcus standing by my desk with Vanessa beside him. His face was stone. Vanessa looked almost excited. My stomach dropped. "My office." "Now," Marcus said. I followed him, my hands shaking. Vanessa came too, closing the door behind us. Marcus sat behind his desk and opened his laptop. He turned the screen toward me. On it was my Instagram account. I rarely posted, but occasionally I would share photos of my secret projects without identifying information. Just the designs themselves. Beautiful work I was proud of. Want to explain this? Marcus asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I couldn't speak. My mouth had gone completely dry. Vanessa brought this to my attention, he continued. She noticed you've been working on projects outside of this agency. Projects you never disclosed. Projects you worked on during company time, using company resources. I didn't use company resources, I managed to say. I worked on my own laptop. My own time. After hours. After hours in our office, Vanessa interjected. I've seen you. Late nights. Weekends. And you're telling me you weren't using our Wi-Fi? Our electricity? Our space? That's theft, Maya. It's not theft, I said, my voice rising. I was helping people who couldn't afford. Helping people, Marcus interrupted, laughing bitterly. Maya, I was not paying you to be Mother Teresa. I'm paying you to generate revenue for this agency. Every hour you spend on these charity cases is an hour you're not focusing on actual clients. Clients who pay us. Clients who keep this business running. He clicked through more of my posts. The bakery logo. Hector's taco cart. Iris's flower shop. Natasha's nonprofit. A year of work. A year of purpose. All displayed like evidence at a trial. Furthermore, Marcus continued, you violated your employment contract. Section 7, Clause 3. Any design work you create while employed here belongs to Pinnacle Creative Agency. That includes personal projects, which means every one of these designs is technically our property, and you've been giving away our intellectual property without authorization. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. That's not fair. These people couldn't afford agency rates. I was just what? Being unprofessional? Because that's exactly what this is, Maya. Unprofessional behavior. He closed his laptop and looked at me with something like disgust. I've tried to mold you into a real designer. A professional. But you're too soft. Too emotional. You don't have what it takes to succeed in this industry. The word unprofessional hung in the air like poison. I looked at Vanessa, hoping for some sign of sympathy, but she just stared back with cold satisfaction. She had been waiting for this moment, I realized. Waiting to take me down. I'm terminating your employment effective immediately, Marcus said. You have 1 hour to clear your desk. Vanessa will supervise to ensure you don't take any proprietary materials. Your final paycheck will be mailed to you, minus deductions for company resources you misused. Misused? I said, finding my voice. I help people. I use my talent to make a real difference. Isn't that what design is supposed to do? Marcus stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Design is supposed to make money, Maya. That's the only difference that matters in the real world. You can take your naive idealism and see how far it gets you out there. I'm guessing not very far. The walk from his office to my desk felt like a funeral procession. Everyone in the office knew what was happening. They had heard the raised voices. Now they all watched silently as I packed my things into a cardboard box. My sketchbooks. My favorite pens. A small succulent plant Iris had given me. 3 years of work reduced to one sad box of belongings. Vanessa stood nearby, arms crossed, making sure I didn't take anything she deemed company property. At one point, I reached for a folder of design samples, and she actually stepped forward. Those were created on company time. Leave them. I wanted to tell her off. I wanted to scream that these designs represented real people, real dreams, real lives changed. But I was too numb, too shocked. I just left the folder and kept packing. As I walked toward the door with my box, one of the junior designers, a kid named Tyler who I had mentored, started to approach me. But Vanessa shot him a look and he froze. No one was going to risk their job by showing me kindness. I understood. I didn't blame them. But it still hurt. I made it to my car before I started crying. Big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. I sat in the parking garage for 30 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. 3 years. Gone. My dream job. Over. My reputation. Destroyed. And for what? For trying to be a good person? For using my skills to help people who actually needed it? When I finally drove home, I felt hollow. Empty. Like someone had reached inside me and scooped out everything that mattered. I climbed into bed at 2 in the afternoon and didn't get up until the next morning. The next few days were a blur. I barely ate. I didn't shower. I just lay in bed scrolling through job listings. knowing that Marcus would give me a terrible reference, knowing that in the tight-knit Seattle design community, word would spread fast. Maya Torres, unprofessional, fired for misusing company resources, giving away free work, too soft, too emotional, not hungry enough. My phone rang constantly, but I ignored it, until one call that came from Natasha. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Maya, thank God, she said, her voice urgent. I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. Are you okay? I'm fine, I lied. Hector told me what happened. Iris told me. Maya, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't asked you to help. It's not your fault, I interrupted. I made my choices. There was a long pause. Then Natasha said something that surprised me. Can you meet me tomorrow? At the cafe where we first talked. There's someone I want you to meet. Someone who can help. I almost said no. I wasn't ready to face the world yet. But something in her voice made me curious. Who? Just trust me. Please. Tomorrow at 10. I showed up at the cafe the next morning looking like a disaster. Unwashed hair and a messy bun, old jeans, no makeup. I didn't care anymore. What was the point of looking professional when I had been labeled unprofessional anyway? Natasha was already there, sitting at a corner table with a woman I didn't recognize. The woman was older, maybe in her 60s, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob, wearing an elegant gray suit and pearls. She looked completely out of place in the casual cafe, like someone who should be running a corporation, not drinking coffee in Fremont. Maya, this is Beverly Lancaster, Natasha said as I sat down. Beverly, this is Maya Torres, the designer I told you about. Beverly extended her hand, and her grip was firm, confident. It's a pleasure to meet you, Maya. Natasha has told me wonderful things about your work for her organization. Thank you, I mumbled, confused about why I was here. Beverly smiled, and there was something knowing in her eyes. Natasha tells me you lost your job recently. I'm sorry to hear that. Though from what I understand, it sounds like you lost the wrong job. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just shrugged. Tell me, Beverly continued, why do you design? What drew you to this work? It was such a simple question, but no one had asked me that in years. At Pinnacle, it was always about deliverables, timelines, and revenue. Never about the why. I found myself answering honestly. I design because I believe visuals can tell stories. They can make people feel seen and understood. They can take someone's dream and make it tangible. When I was a kid, my parents owned a small restaurant. They were immigrants and they struggled so much. Their old menu was handwritten, falling apart. One day, I used my art class supplies to redesign it. Nothing fancy, just colored pencils and markers. But my mom cried when she saw it. She said I had made their dream look real. That's when I knew. That's what I wanted to do with my life. Beverly listened intently, nodding. And that's what you've been doing with your secret projects, isn't it? Making dreams look real. I guess so, I said. Though apparently that's unprofessional behavior. Unprofessional, Beverly repeated, as if tasting the word. Interesting. I've been in business for 40 years, Maya. I've built 3 successful companies from the ground up. And in my experience, there's nothing more professional than someone who keeps their word, delivers excellent work, and treats people with dignity. That's the foundation of all real success. I looked up, surprised. That's not what my boss thought. Your former boss sounds like someone who confused business with cruelty, Beverly said. They're not the same thing. You can be profitable and ethical. You can build wealth and still treat people well. In fact, the most successful businesses I've seen are the ones built on genuine relationships and mutual respect. She pulled out a tablet and showed me something. It was a website, sleek and professional, showcasing a creative collective. Multiple designers, photographers, and strategists all working together. The tagline read, "Design with purpose. Creativity with conscience." This is something I've been building, Beverly explained. A network of creative professionals who believe in using their skills for good. Not charity work, mind you. Real, paid work. But work that matters. Work that helps small businesses, nonprofits, community organizations. People who need excellent design but can't afford traditional agency rates. My heart started beating faster. That's incredible. We've been searching for the right person to lead our Seattle branch, Beverly continued. Someone with talent, integrity, and the courage to put people before profit. Natasha seems to think you might be that person. I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. Are you offering me a job? Beverly smiled. Not exactly. I'm offering you a partnership. You would be a co-founder, running the Seattle operations with full creative control. We provide the funding, the infrastructure, and the network. You provide the vision and the leadership. I couldn't speak. This had to be some kind of trick. Things like this didn't happen to people like me, people who had just been fired, people who were broke and broken and barely holding it together. I know this is sudden, Beverly said gently. And I know you're processing a difficult loss. But Maya, I've done my research. I've talked to Hector, to Iris, to the bakery owners, to everyone you've helped over the past year. They all said the same thing. You're talented, you're kind, and you truly care about the work. Those qualities are rare. Invaluable, actually. How did you even find all of them? I asked. Natasha connected me, Beverly said. After the gala, she reached out to me because she knew I was building this collective. She thought you'd be perfect. And when she told me you'd been fired for helping people, I knew I had to meet you. I looked at Natasha, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. You did this? You saved my program, Maya. 60 people still have hope because of you. This is me returning the favor. I felt overwhelmed, like I was drowning in emotions I couldn't name. I don't understand. Why me? I'm nobody. I just got fired. My reputation is ruined. Your reputation is exactly what we need, Beverly interrupted. Someone who values people over profits. Someone who can't be bought or corrupted. Someone who remembers what design is actually for. She paused, then added, I'm not asking you to decide right now. Take some time. Think about it. But Maya, I really hope you'll say yes. She slid a business card across the table. Heavy stock, elegant typography. Just her name, number, and email. No fancy titles or company logos. Simple. Honest. Like everything else about her. After Beverly left, I sat with Natasha in stunned silence. Finally, she spoke. She's the real deal, Maya. I've known her for 5 years. She funded the startup costs for my nonprofit. She doesn't just talk about helping people. She actually does it. This doesn't feel real, I whispered. It is real. And you deserve it. Stop thinking you don't. I went home that afternoon with Beverly's business card in my pocket and 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Part of me was terrified. What if I failed? What if I wasn't good enough? What if this was all too good to be true? But another part of me, the part that had been dying slowly at Pinnacle, was waking up. Stretching. Remembering what it felt like to have hope. That night, I did something I hadn't done in days. I opened my laptop and started designing. Not for anyone specific. Just for myself. I played with colors and shapes, experimenting with ideas that had been buried under all the corporate work. And slowly, finally, I felt like myself again. The next morning, I called Beverly. My hands were shaking as I dialed, but my voice was steady when she answered. I'm in, I said. I want to do this. There was a pause, and then I heard the smile in her voice. Wonderful. Welcome to the team, Maya. Let's change the way design works in this city. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Beverly moved fast. We met every day, planning the Seattle branch of what she called the Purpose Collective. The name alone made me emotional. Purpose. That's what I had been missing at Pinnacle. That's what had been dying inside me with every inflated invoice and heartless pitch. Beverly explained the business model over coffee one morning. We're not a traditional agency. We're a cooperative. Designers retain ownership of their work and their client relationships. We provide the infrastructure, legal support, accounting, and a shared workspace. In return, we take a small percentage of each project. But here's the key. We only take on clients who align with our values. What if we can't find enough of those clients? I asked. What if no one wants to work with us? Beverly laughed. Maya, there are thousands of small businesses, nonprofits, and community organizations that need excellent design. They're everywhere. The problem isn't demand. The problem is that most designers are trapped in agencies that won't let them serve these clients because the profit margins aren't high enough. We're going to change that. She showed me the space she had leased. It was in Pioneer Square, a beautiful old brick building with huge windows and exposed beams. 3 floors. Room for a dozen designers, photographers, and strategists. There was a community room for hosting workshops and a gallery space for showcasing work. It was perfect. This is incredible, I breathed, walking through the empty rooms. But this must cost a fortune. It's an investment, Beverly said simply. I believe in this model. I've seen it work in Portland and San Francisco. Now it's Seattle's turn. And you're going to lead it. That phrase still terrified me. Let it. I had only ever been a junior designer. I had never managed anyone, never run a business, never been responsible for anything bigger than my own projects. But Beverly seemed completely confident in me, which made me want to be confident in myself. We started recruiting other designers. Beverly had a network from her previous ventures, and word spread quickly through the creative community. We were looking for people who were tired of corporate agencies, who wanted to work on meaningful projects, who believed design could be a force for good. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, we had interviewed 20 designers. Some were fresh out of school, idealistic and hungry. Others were seasoned professionals who had burned out at places like Pinnacle and were looking for something different. We selected 6 to start with. Each one brought different skills and perspectives, but they all shared the same core values. One of them was a woman named Keisha Brown, a brand strategist who had left a major firm after refusing to work on a predatory lending campaign. Another was Ramon Santos, a web designer who specialized in accessibility and inclusive design. There was Yuki Tanaka, an illustrator who had been freelancing for years but wanted more stability. And 3 others, all talented, all passionate, all ready to prove that design could be profitable and ethical. Our first team meeting was in the half-furnished space, sitting on folding chairs in a circle. I looked around at these strangers who were about to become my colleagues, my partners, my team. My heart was pounding. "Thank you all for being here," I started, my voice shaking slightly. "I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. 6 weeks ago, I was working at a traditional agency, trying to fit into a mold that never felt right. I got fired for doing free work for people who needed help. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. But now, standing here with all of you, it feels like the beginning of something much bigger." Keisha raised her hand. "What's our first move? How do we actually get this thing off the ground?" It was a fair question, and one I had been thinking about constantly. We needed clients. Real, paying clients. Not charity cases, but actual businesses and organizations that could sustain us while we built our reputation. "I have a list," I said, pulling out my notebook. Over the past year, I helped about 30 different small businesses and nonprofits. Most of them told me they wished they could afford more services. They have ongoing needs. They just couldn't pay agency rates. But maybe they could pay our rates. Ramon leaned forward. "What are our rates?" Beverly stepped in. "That's something we need to decide together. But my suggestion is this. We charge about 40% less than traditional agencies. We make up for it in volume and efficiency. We're not padding hours or adding unnecessary revisions. We're focused on delivering excellent work quickly and building long-term relationships." Yuki looked skeptical. "Can we actually make money at 40% less?" "Yes," Beverly said firmly. "Because we're cutting out the waste. At places like Pinnacle, designers spend half their time in pointless meetings, tracking billable hours, and dealing with bureaucracy. Here, you design. That's it. We handle everything else. You'll be more productive, which means you can take on more projects, which means everyone makes money." It made sense. It was risky, but it made sense. We spent the rest of that meeting setting our rate structure, defining our ideal clients, and dividing up responsibilities. I would handle overall creative direction and client relationships. Keisha would manage strategy and planning. Ramon would lead the digital team. Everyone had a role. That night, I went home exhausted but energized. For the first time since getting fired, I felt like I was moving forward instead of drowning. I made a list of everyone I had helped over the past year and started reaching out. The responses came back quickly and consistently. "Yes, we would love to work with you. Yes, we have more projects. Yes, we can pay your rates." Within 3 days, we had our first 5 clients. Hector wanted to expand his taco cart business and needed a complete brand package for 2 new locations. Iris wanted to launch an online store and needed e-commerce design. The bakery wanted to do a seasonal campaign. Natasha's nonprofit wanted ongoing materials. And a youth center I had helped 6 months ago wanted a complete website redesign. 5 projects. Enough to keep us busy for 2 months and generate our first real revenue. We scheduled a kickoff meeting with all the clients together, wanting to create a sense of community from the start. The meeting was in our unfinished space, sitting on those same folding chairs, but somehow it felt right. These weren't corporate executives in suits demanding results. These were real people with real dreams, grateful to have designers who actually cared about their success. Hector brought tacos for everyone. Iris brought flowers. The bakery owners brought pastries. By the end of the meeting, It felt less like a business transaction and more like a gathering of friends. As everyone left, promising to send over their materials and deposits, I felt something shift inside me. This was it. This was what I had been searching for without knowing it. Beverly pulled me aside as people filed out. "You're a natural at this, Maya. Look at how they trust you. How they light up around you. That's not something you can teach or fake. That's authentic leadership." I wanted to believe her, but doubt still crept in. What if I mess this up? What if I can't deliver what they need? "Then we figure it out together," Beverly said simply. "That's what a team does. You don't have to be perfect, Maya. You just have to be present and honest. Everything else will follow." Over the next week, we worked like maniacs. The space was coming together. We had desks, computers, software licenses, everything we needed. Beverly handled all the logistics while we focused on the creative work. And the work was good. Better than good. It was the best work I had ever done because it mattered. Every logo, every poster, every website felt connected to real people and real impact. Keisha and I worked late one night on Hector's brand expansion. She was brilliant, asking questions I never would have thought of. What makes his tacos different? What's his origin story? Why should people care? We dug deep, interviewing Hector about his grandmother's recipes, his journey from Mexico to Seattle, his dream of creating gathering places for community. By the time we were done, we hadn't just designed a brand. We had told a story. Ramon was equally impressive with the youth center website. He spent hours with the kids who used the center, asking them what they wanted to see, what would make them feel represented. The result was a site that felt alive, youthful, and authentic. Not what we thought kids wanted, but what they actually told us they wanted. Yuki brought artistry to everything. Her illustrations for Iris's online store were stunning, each flower drawn with such care that you could almost smell them through the screen. She worked slowly, meticulously, but the results were worth it. We were functioning like a real agency, except better. There was no backstabbing, no competition, no pressure to inflate hours or add unnecessary work. We just designed, collaborated, and delivered. It felt revolutionary and also completely natural, like this was how creative work was always meant to be. 3 weeks after we started, something unexpected happened. I was at a coffee shop near the office, taking a rare break, when I ran into Tyler, the junior designer from Pinnacle who I had mentored. He looked nervous when he saw me, glancing around as if Marcus might be watching. "Hey, Maya," he said quietly, sitting down across from me. "Can we talk?" "Of course. What's going on?" He looked miserable. "I hate it there. I've hated it since you left. Vanessa got promoted to your old position, and she's even worse than Marcus. She's running the team into the ground, taking credit for everyone's work, and the environment is toxic. Half the designers are looking for new jobs." I felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry, Tyler. That sounds awful. The thing is," he continued, fidgeting with his coffee cup, "I heard about what you're building. The Purpose Collective. People are talking about it in the design community. About how you're doing ethical work, building something different. And I was wondering." He trailed off, looking hopeful and scared at the same time. "You want to join us?" He nodded eagerly. "I know I'm young and inexperienced, but I'm a hard worker and I believe in what you're doing. I can't stay at Pinnacle anymore. It's killing my creativity and my soul." I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before answering. "We'd love to have you. But you need to understand what you're signing up for. We're still new. We can't pay as much as Pinnacle. And we're working with small clients, not big corporate brands. It's meaningful work, but it's not glamorous." "I don't want glamorous," Tyler said. "I want to be proud of what I design again. I want to work with people like you who actually care." We brought Tyler on the next day. He fit in immediately, bringing fresh energy and enthusiasm. But his arrival also brought news from Pinnacle that was both satisfying and concerning. According to Tyler, the agency was struggling. 2 major clients had left in the past month, unhappy with Vanessa's aggressive tactics and lack of creativity. Marcus was scrambling to keep things together, and morale was at an all-time low. Part of me felt vindicated. The other part felt nothing. I had moved on. Pinnacle was my past. The Purpose Collective was my future. We were too busy to waste time thinking about my old boss and his failing agency. Our client base was growing faster than we expected. Word spread through the small business community like wildfire. Maya Torres and her team actually care. They listen. They deliver. They're affordable. And they're good. Really good. We started getting referrals from clients we hadn't even worked with yet, businesses who had heard about us from other business owners. One referral came from an unexpected source. A woman named Christine Park walked into our office one afternoon without an appointment. She was in her 50s, well-dressed but not flashy, carrying a leather portfolio. "I'm looking for Maya Torres," she said. I stepped forward. "That's me. How can I help you?" She smiled warmly. "I own a restaurant downtown. Korean Fusion. We've been open for 2 years, doing okay but not great. Then last week, I had lunch at Hector's new location. The branding, the atmosphere, everything was so cohesive and inviting. I asked him who did his design work, and he said your name like you were some kind of miracle worker." I laughed. "I don't know about being a miracle worker, but we do try our best." "I need your help," Christine said simply. "My restaurant has potential, but the branding is all wrong. It doesn't capture what we're trying to do. Can you fix it?" We took on her project, and it turned out to be one of our most challenging and rewarding yet. Christine's restaurant was trying to honor traditional Korean cuisine while making it accessible to Western palates. The existing brand was confused, trying to be too many things at once. We spent hours with Christine and her head chef, understanding their vision, tasting their food, watching how customers interacted with the space. Keisha led the strategy sessions, asking brilliant questions that helped Christine clarify her own vision. Ramon designed a website that was clean, appetizing, and easy to navigate. Yuki created illustrations that honored Korean artistic traditions while feeling modern. And I pulled it all together into a cohesive brand that told Christine's story authentically. When we presented the final work, Christine cried. "This is exactly what I've been trying to say, but couldn't articulate. You understood us better than we understood ourselves." 2 months into running the Purpose Collective, Beverly called an all-team meeting. We gathered in the community room, which was now fully furnished with comfortable chairs, a big table, and walls covered with our client work. It felt like a real studio, a real business, a real success. "I want to share some numbers with you," Beverly began, projecting a spreadsheet on the wall. "In our first 2 months, we've completed 12 projects for 10 different clients. Our revenue has exceeded projections by 30%. Every client has given us 5-star reviews. And we have a wait list of 15 businesses wanting to work with us." The room erupted in cheers. Keisha high-fived Ramon. Yuki pumped her fist. Tyler looked like he might cry with joy. I felt overwhelming relief. We had done it. We had actually built something sustainable. "But here's what I'm most proud of," Beverly continued, pulling up another slide. "Our clients have reported an average revenue increase of 45% after implementing our branding work. Hector opened his second location and has a line out the door every day. Christine's restaurant is now fully booked on weekends. The youth center doubled their program enrollment. We're not just designing pretty things. We're creating real, measurable impact." That was the moment I truly understood what we had built. Not just an agency with different values, but a model that proved you could do good and do well at the same time. That ethical business wasn't just possible, it was profitable. That treating people with dignity and respect wasn't weakness, it was strength. After the meeting, Beverly asked me to stay behind. "There's something I want to discuss with you," she said, her expression serious. "We've been invited to showcase our work at the Pacific Northwest Design Conference next month. It's the biggest design event in the region. Agencies from all over will be there, including Pinnacle." My stomach tightened. "Marcus will be there." "Yes. And Vanessa. And probably half the designers you used to work with." Beverly paused. "I know this might be difficult, but I think we should do it. This is a chance to show the design community that there's another way to work. That ethical design isn't just a nice idea, it's a viable business model." I thought about facing Marcus, about standing in front of my former colleagues who had watched me got fired and said nothing. The idea made me feel sick. But then I thought about Hector, Christine, Iris, Natasha, and all the others whose lives had genuinely changed because of the work we were doing. They deserved to have their stories told. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." The next 3 weeks were consumed with preparation. We decided to create a presentation that told our clients' stories, not ours. We interviewed each business owner, asking them to share their experiences working with us and the impact it had on their businesses. The footage was powerful. Hector talking about how he could finally afford to bring his mother from Mexico to see his success. Christine describing how her restaurant had become a community gathering place. The youth center director explaining how our website helped them secure a major grant. We edited it into a 20-minute presentation with before and after visuals, financial impact data, and testimonials. It wasn't slick or overly polished. It was honest, real, human, exactly what we stood for. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining different scenarios. Marcus heckling from the audience. Vanessa smirking in the front row. Other designers dismissing our work as small time or insignificant. By 3 a.m, I was sitting at my kitchen table, second-guessing everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Beverly. Can't sleep either. Remember why we're doing this. Not for them. For everyone who needs to know there's another path. See you tomorrow. You've got this. I read it 3 times, letting her confidence seep into me. She was right. This wasn't about Marcus or Pinnacle or proving anything to people who didn't matter anymore. This was about showing other designers, other business owners, other dreamers that ethical work was possible and powerful. The Pacific Northwest Design Conference was held at a massive convention center downtown. Hundreds of designers, agency owners, and creative professionals filled the halls. Booths showcased cutting-edge work from the region's top firms. Panel discussions covered everything from emerging technologies to client management strategies. It was overwhelming and intimidating, and exactly the kind of environment where Pinnacle had always thrived. I spotted Marcus before he spotted me. He was holding court near the registration area, surrounded by a group of younger designers hanging on his every word. He looked exactly the same: expensive suit, slicked back hair, that shark-like smile. Vanessa was beside him, wearing designer everything, looking polished and predatory. Beverly touched my elbow. You okay? Yeah, I lied. I'm fine. Our presentation was scheduled for the late morning in one of the smaller conference rooms. We had expected maybe 30 or 40 people to show up. Instead, the room was packed. Every seat taken. People standing along the walls. I scanned the crowd and my heart sank. Marcus and Vanessa were in the 3rd row, arms crossed, expression skeptical. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the podium. The room went quiet. This was it. Good morning. I'm Maya Torres, founder of the Purpose Collective. 2 months ago, I was fired from my job at a traditional design agency for what my boss called unprofessional behavior. My crime? I was helping small businesses and nonprofits who couldn't afford agency rates. I was told that real designers focus on profit, not people. That business means putting revenue above relationships. That success means billing as much as possible and caring as little as necessary. I could see Marcus's jaw tighten. Vanessa whispered something to him. Good. I wanted them to know this was about them. But here's what I learned after getting fired. Everything my old boss told me was wrong. You can be profitable and ethical. You can build a successful business and treat people with dignity. You can do work that matters and make money. In fact, you can do it better than the traditional model. I clicked to the first slide, showing our 2-month revenue numbers compared to industry standards. The Purpose Collective has been in operation for exactly 63 days. In that time, we've generated more revenue per designer than the industry average. Our client retention rate is 100%, and our clients have seen an average business growth of 45% after working with us. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw some designers leaning forward, interested. Others looked skeptical. Marcus's expression had shifted from smug to surprised. But numbers don't tell the whole story, I continued. So I want to show you the real impact of ethical design. These are our clients. These are their stories. The video started playing. Hector appeared on screen, standing in front of his new taco location, eyes shining with pride. Maya and her team didn't just design a logo for me. They understood my dream. They asked about my grandmother, my journey, my values. They made me feel like my story mattered. Now I have 2 locations, and I'm bringing my mother here next month to see what I built. That's because someone cared enough to see me as more than a paycheck. Next was Christine, in her restaurant kitchen. I was ready to give up. The business was struggling, and I thought maybe I just wasn't good enough. But Maya's team didn't try to change who I was. They helped me express who I was more clearly. Now we're booked solid, and customers tell me they can feel the authenticity in everything from our menu to our space. That's the power of designers who actually listen. The testimonials continued, each one more powerful than the last. Iris talking about how her flower shop had become a neighborhood landmark. The youth center director explaining how our website helped them secure funding that saved their programs. The bakery owners describing how our rebrand had saved their 30-year business from closing. But the most powerful moment came when Natasha appeared on screen. She was standing in front of a room full of people from her job training program. Former inmates who were now carpenters, electricians, chefs, and mechanics. When I first approached Maya, I had no money and no hope. My program was about to close, and 60 people were going to lose their second chance at life. Maya could have said no. She had just been fired. She had every reason to focus on herself. But she said yes anyway. She worked for 6 weeks creating everything we needed for our fundraising gala. Because of her, we raised over $200,000 that night. Because of her, these 60 people behind me still have jobs, still have dignity, still have hope. That's not just design. That's changing lives. The screen went dark. The room was completely silent. I could see people wiping their eyes. Even some of the hardened agency owners looked moved. Marcus's face was unreadable, but Vanessa looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat. "This is what I believe about design," I said, my voice steady now, confident. "It's not about making rich companies richer. It's not about padding invoices or billing for pointless revisions. It's about using our talents to help people tell their stories, build their dreams, and create real value in the world. And you know what? It's also more profitable. Because when you genuinely care about your client's success, they become your biggest advocates. They refer everyone they know. They stay loyal. They become partners, not transactions." I clicked to our final slide, showing our pipeline of upcoming projects and our wait list of prospective clients. In 2 months, we've built a sustainable business model that proves ethical design works. We're hiring 2 more designers next month because we can't keep up with demand. And we're not charging premium rates. We're charging fair rates. The difference is efficiency, care, and genuine relationships. I paused, looking directly at Marcus. I was told I was too soft for this industry. Too emotional. Too unprofessional. But I'm standing here with a thriving business, happy clients, and a team that wakes up excited to work every day. So maybe the real question isn't whether I'm professional enough. Maybe it's whether the traditional model is human enough. The room erupted in applause. People stood up. Designers rushed forward with business cards and questions. In the chaos, I lost sight of Marcus and Vanessa, but I didn't care. We had done what we came to do. We had shown the design community that there was another way. Beverly found me in the crowd, beaming. "That was incredible, Maya. Absolutely incredible. You just changed the conversation around ethical business in this city." Over the next hour, we fielded dozens of questions. Young designers asking how to get started in ethical work. Business owners wanting to hire us. Even a few agency owners admitting they were burned out on the traditional model and wanted to know more about our approach. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. I was talking to a group of design students when I felt a presence behind me. I turned around and came face to face with Marcus. Up close, I could see the strain in his face. He looked older, tired, less certain of himself. "Maya," he said, his voice lacking its usual confidence. "Can we talk?" Privately. I excused myself from the students and followed Marcus to a quiet corner of the conference center. Vanessa was notably absent. It was just the 2 of us, and suddenly I wasn't nervous anymore. I was curious. "That was quite a presentation," Marcus began. "Very compelling. Thank you." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd never seen him make before. He always seemed so controlled, so polished. "I wanted to apologize. For how I treated you. For the things I said when I fired you." I waited, saying nothing. "The truth is, Pinnacle is struggling," he continued, the words seeming to cost him something. "We've lost 3 major clients in the past 2 months. Our team morale is terrible. People keep quitting. And I keep thinking about what you said before I fired you. About helping people. About design meaning something beyond profit. I dismissed it then. But watching your presentation, seeing those clients' faces, hearing what you've built." He trailed off, shaking his head. Maybe I was wrong. I had imagined this moment 100 times. Marcus apologizing. Marcus admitting he was wrong. In my fantasies, I had delivered devastating comebacks, made him feel as small as he had made me feel. But standing there now, looking at this man who had once had so much power over me, I just felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just a quiet sense of closure. "I appreciate the apology," I said carefully. "But I need you to understand something. You didn't just fire me for helping people. You tried to make me believe that kindness was weakness. that caring about clients beyond their wallets was unprofessional. You almost convinced me that I had to choose between being successful and being decent. That was the real harm. Marcus looked down at his expensive shoes. You're right. I built Pinnacle on a model I thought was smart, efficient, effective. But it's also soulless. And I'm finally seeing that maybe soul matters more than I wanted to admit. So what are you going to do about it? I asked. He looked up, surprised by the directness of the question. I don't know. Change, maybe. Try to build something different. Though I'm not sure I know how anymore. Then figure it out, I said, not unkindly. But don't expect me to help you. I'm done carrying the emotional labor of making people understand basic human decency. You've got resources, connections, and decades of experience. If you actually want to change, you can. But that's your journey, not mine. I started to walk away, then turned back. And Marcus? Stop telling young designers that caring makes them weak. Stop treating clients like ATMs. And maybe, just maybe, ask yourself why your business is failing while mine is thriving. The answer might surprise you. I left him standing there and returned to the group of eager design students. They had questions about pricing strategies, client acquisition, team building, all the practical things they don't teach in design school. I spent the next 2 hours talking with them, sharing everything I had learned, trying to give them the mentorship I wish I'd had at their age. As the conference wound down, Beverly and I packed up our materials. We had collected over 60 business cards, scheduled 15 consultation calls, and been approached by 2 other cities interested in opening Purpose Collective branches. It had been a better day than I could have imagined. On the drive back to the office, Beverly was unusually quiet. Finally, she spoke. I saw you talking with Marcus. That must have been difficult. It was, I admitted, but also necessary. I needed to see him as just a person, not this towering figure who controlled my fate. He's just a guy who built a business on the wrong values and is now facing the consequences. How did it feel? I thought about it. Like closing a chapter. Like finally truly moving on. Back at the office, the team was waiting for us with champagne and cupcakes. They had been following updates on social media, watching as photos and quotes from our presentation spread through the design community. We were trending on local design Twitter. People were calling us pioneers, innovators, the future of creative services. Tyler raised his glass. To Maya, for having the courage to build something better. And to all of us for being crazy enough to join her. We clinked glasses, laughing and celebrating. But even in the joy of that moment, I felt something shifting. This was bigger than I had realized. We weren't just running a small design collective anymore. We were starting a movement. And movements came with expectations, pressures, and responsibilities I wasn't sure I was ready for. That night, alone in my apartment, I pulled out my journal. I hadn't written in it since before getting fired. The last entry was full of despair and confusion, questioning everything about my life and career. Now, I wrote something different. Today I stood in front of hundreds of designers and told the truth about what happened to me. I thought I would feel vindicated or victorious. Instead, I just felt calm, like I had finally stepped fully into who I was always meant to be. The scary part? This is just the beginning. People are watching now. Expecting things. Wanting us to be the answer to everything wrong with the creative industry. I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I also know I can't go back. Forward is the only option. The week after the conference, everything accelerated. Our waitlist grew to over 30 businesses. We received inquiries from designers in Portland, San Francisco, and even New York asking about franchising opportunities. A local business magazine requested an interview. And most surprisingly, 3 designers from Pinnacle reached out asking if they could join our team. One of them was someone I never expected, Vanessa. She showed up at our office unannounced on a Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of a strategy session with Keisha when our receptionist, we had just hired one, knocked on the door. Maya, there's a Vanessa Kim here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Keisha raised her eyebrows. The Vanessa from Pinnacle? The one who got you fired? The same one, I said, my stomach nodding. Give me a minute. I found Vanessa in our reception area, looking uncomfortable and out of place. She was dressed as impeccably as always, but there was something different about her demeanor. Less confident, more uncertain. Vanessa, I said neutrally. This is unexpected. I know. I'm sorry for just showing up. But I needed to talk to you, and I wasn't sure you'd respond if I called or emailed. She glanced around our space, taking in the creative energy, the collaborative atmosphere, the walls covered with work that actually mattered. "Can we talk?" Privately. Against my better judgment, I led her to one of our small meeting rooms. She sat down, folded her hands on the table, and took a deep breath. "I'm leaving Pinnacle," she said abruptly. "Actually, I already left. This morning." I walked in, cleared my desk, and quit. I was stunned. "Why?" "Because you were right. About everything." She looked directly at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in her before: vulnerability. After the conference, after hearing those testimonials from your clients, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went back to Pinnacle and looked at our client relationships. Really looked at them. And you know what I saw? Fear. Resentment. Clients who tolerated us because they thought they had to, but who would leave the second they found someone better. No loyalty. No real relationships. Just transactions held together by contracts. She paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. "I've spent 7 years at Pinnacle climbing the ladder, doing whatever Marcus wanted, stepping on whoever I needed to step on. I thought that was strength. I thought that was success. But watching you build something in 2 months that has more integrity and more genuine success than anything we built in 7 years, it broke something open in me. Or maybe it fixed something that was broken. I don't know. I didn't know what to say." This was the woman who had reported me to Marcus, who had supervised my humiliating exit from the office, who had taken my position and, by Tyler's account, made life miserable for everyone on the team. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I want to do better. I want to be better. And I'm asking if there's any possibility, any chance at all, that you might consider letting me join the Purpose Collective." The request hung in the air like smoke. Vanessa wanted to join us. The woman who had actively participated in my firing now wanted to be part of what I was building. It felt absurd. Impossible. And yet, looking at her face, I saw genuine remorse. Genuine desire for change. "I need time to think about this," I said finally. "This isn't just my decision. We're a team. Everyone would need to agree." Vanessa nodded quickly. "Of course. I understand. And Maya, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or your trust. But I promise you, if you give me a chance, I will prove that I've changed. I will work harder than anyone. I will put the team first. I will." "Stop," I interrupted gently. "Don't make promises you're not sure you can keep. If we even consider this, it would be a trial period. You'd have to prove through actions, not words, that you've actually changed. And you'd have to be okay with being at the bottom of the hierarchy, learning our way of doing things, accepting feedback even when it's hard." "I can do that," she said. "I want to do that." After Vanessa left, I called an emergency team meeting. Everyone gathered in the community room, curious about what could be so urgent. When I explained that Vanessa wanted to join us, the reactions were exactly what I expected. "Absolutely not," Tyler said immediately. "She made my life hell after you left. She's the reason half the team at Pinnacle is miserable." Ramon agreed. "We built this place on trust and collaboration. How can we trust someone who actively worked against those values?" But Keisha surprised me. "I hear what everyone's saying. But people can change. I used to work for a predatory lending company before I woke up and realized what I was doing. Someone gave me a second chance, and it changed my life. Maybe we should at least consider it." The debate went on for over an hour. Some were firmly against it. Others were cautiously open. Eventually, Beverly weighed in with her perspective. "This is Maya's decision," she said. "She's the one Vanessa hurt most directly. Whatever Maya decides, we support." All eyes turned to me. I thought about Vanessa's face, the genuine remorse I had seen there. I thought about the principle we had built this place on, that everyone deserves dignity, second chances, and the opportunity to do meaningful work. Could I deny someone else what I had been given? "Here's what I propose," I said slowly. "We offer Vanessa a 1-month trial. She works as a junior designer under supervision. We watch how she interacts with clients, how she treats team members, whether her actions match her words. After a month, we all vote on whether she stays. But there's one condition. She has to apologize to Tyler personally. And if Tyler says no to her joining, that's final. He's the one who suffered most under her leadership." Everyone looked at Tyler. He was quiet for a long moment, his jaw tight. Finally, he spoke. "If she genuinely apologizes and shows she's changed, I won't stand in the way. But I'm watching closely. One hint of the old Vanessa, and she's gone." We brought Vanessa back later that day and explained the terms. She accepted immediately, with obvious relief. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." Her first test came the next morning. Tyler asked to speak with her privately. I watched through the glass walls as they sat across from each other. Vanessa was talking, occasionally wiping her eyes. Tyler's posture was rigid at first, defensive. But slowly I saw it soften. After 20 minutes, they shook hands. Tyler later told me that Vanessa had given the most genuine apology he'd ever received, taking full responsibility for her behavior without excuses or justifications. Vanessa's trial month began. We assigned her to work on smaller projects under Ramon's supervision. At first, the team was cautious around her, watching for signs of the old competitive, cutthroat behavior. But slowly, day by day, she showed up differently. She asked questions instead of assuming she knew best. She gave credit to others. She stayed late to help teammates meet deadlines. She treated clients with genuine warmth and interest. The biggest test came 3 weeks into her trial. We were working on a branding project for a refugee support center. The budget was tiny, barely enough to cover costs. The old Vanessa would have dismissed it as not worth the time. But this Vanessa threw herself into the project with intense dedication. She spent hours interviewing refugees, understanding their stories, their struggles, their hopes. The resulting brand work was some of the most sensitive and powerful design I'd ever seen from her. During a team review of her work, Vanessa presented the project with visible emotion. "These families have lost everything," she said. "Their homes, their countries, their sense of safety. And they're trying to rebuild here with almost nothing. Our work might seem small, just a logo and some materials, but to them, it's validation. It's someone saying your story matters. Your struggle is seen. That's what design should always be about." I'm sorry it took me this long to understand that. The room was silent. Then Keisha started clapping, and everyone joined in. Even Tyler was nodding with approval. After the meeting, Beverly pulled me aside. "She's the real deal," Beverly said. "I've been watching closely. This isn't performative. She's genuinely changed. What you've built here is so powerful that it's transforming people just by being part of it." At the end of Vanessa's trial month, we held the vote. It was unanimous. She could stay. When we told her, she broke down crying, thanking us over and over. "You gave me something I didn't deserve," she said. "A chance to become who I actually want to be. I promise I'll spend every day earning that gift." With Vanessa now a full member of the team, we were 8 designers strong. Our client base had expanded to over 20 active relationships, with projects ranging from small nonprofits to mid-sized businesses. We were profitable, sustainable, and growing. But more importantly, we were happy. The office buzzed with creative energy, collaboration, and genuine care for the work and each other. One afternoon, about 3.5 months after starting the Purpose Collective, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Maya Torres?" a male voice asked. "Yes." "Who's calling?" "My name is Harrison Wells. I'm a venture capitalist based in San Francisco. I was at the Pacific Northwest Design Conference. I saw your presentation, and I've been following your company's growth with great interest. I'd like to discuss an investment opportunity with you." My heart started pounding. Investment? We hadn't even been looking for investors. Beverly had funded everything so far, and we were already profitable. "I'm not sure we're looking for investment," I said carefully. "Hear me out," Harrison continued. "I specialize in ethical businesses, companies that prove you can do good and do well simultaneously. What you've built in Seattle is exactly the kind of model I want to support and scale. I'd like to meet with you and Beverly to discuss providing capital for expansion. Not just more designers in Seattle, but Purpose Collective branches in other cities. Imagine your model spreading across the country, providing opportunities for hundreds of designers to do meaningful work while serving thousands of small businesses and nonprofits." The vision he painted was intoxicating, but I had learned to be cautious about things that sounded too good to be true. "Let me talk to Beverly and get back to you," I said. That night, Beverly and I met for dinner at Christine's restaurant. Over Christine's amazing Korean fusion cuisine, I told Beverly about Harrison's call. She listened thoughtfully, asking occasional questions. "I know Harrison," she said finally. "By reputation, at least. He's legitimate. He's backed several social enterprises that have done well financially while maintaining their values. But Maya, this is a big decision. Investment means giving up some control. It means pressure to grow faster, scale bigger. Are you ready for that? I thought about our cozy office, our tight-knit team, the intimate relationships we had with every client. Could we maintain that intimacy while scaling? Or would we become just another corporate machine, losing the very soul that made us special? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me is excited. Imagine how many people we could help if we expanded. But another part of me is scared we'll lose what makes us different. Beverly reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I support you. But remember, you don't have to make this decision alone. We're a team. Everyone should have input. We called another all-team meeting. This time, the topic was even bigger than Vanessa joining. This was about the future direction of the entire company. The team gathered around our big conference table, and I explained Harrison's offer. The room immediately filled with excited chatter. Yuki was practically bouncing in her seat. We could help designers in other cities escape toxic agencies. We could create a whole network of ethical creative studios. Ramon was more cautious. But what happens when we scale? Can we really maintain the same quality of relationships with clients? The same care? Or do we become what we were trying to escape? Tyler raised his hand hesitantly. I'm still pretty new here, but the reason I left Pinnacle was because it felt like a machine. Everyone was just a cog. What if taking investment money turns us into that? Vanessa spoke up, surprising everyone. I've seen what happens when companies chase growth for growth's sake. It corrupts the mission. But I've also seen what happens when good models stay too small. They become boutique services that only help a lucky few. Maybe the question isn't whether to grow, but how to grow without losing our soul. The discussion went on for 2 hours. Keisha worried about pressure from investors to prioritize profits. Yuki wanted safeguards to protect our values. Ramon suggested we could create a detailed expansion playbook that codified our principles. Everyone had valid concerns and valid dreams. Finally, Beverly spoke. Here's what I propose. We take the meeting with Harrison. We listen to his terms. We ask hard questions about control, decision-making, and value protection. Then we decide together whether this is right for us. But we go in knowing our bottom line. We will never compromise on treating people with dignity. That's non-negotiable. Everyone agreed. 2 weeks later, Harrison flew up from San Francisco. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with an easy smile and an earnest demeanor. We met in our conference room with the whole team present. If he was going to invest in us, he needed to understand we made decisions collectively. Harrison's pitch was compelling. He wanted to invest $2 million for a 20% stake in the company. The money would fund expansion to 3 new cities, Portland, San Francisco, and Austin, over the next 18 months. Each city would have its own director, but follow the same ethical model we had established. He would provide business infrastructure, legal support, and access to his network of potential clients and collaborators. But here's the key, Harrison said, leaning forward. I'm not interested in changing what you've built. I'm interested in replicating it. You've proven that ethical creative services can be profitable. Now I want to help you prove it can scale. My only conditions are reasonable growth targets and quarterly reports. Beyond that, you maintain full creative and operational control. Keisha immediately jumped in with questions about those growth targets. Were they based on revenue alone, or did they factor in client satisfaction and social impact? Harrison's answers were reassuring. He cared about metrics beyond profit, client retention, designer satisfaction, community impact. He showed us reports from other companies he'd invested in, all of which had maintained their values while growing. After Harrison left, we spent the rest of the day debating. The opportunity was incredible, but the stakes were high. We could touch so many more lives, help so many more people. But we could also lose the intimate, family-like culture we had built. Finally, I called for a vote. Not just yes or no, but with the option to suggest conditions or modifications. We went around the table. Yuki voted yes with the condition that each new city director had to spend a month training with us first, absorbing our culture and values. Ramon voted yes with the condition that we establish a client bill of rights that every branch had to follow. Tyler voted yes with the condition that we create an ethics committee with power to overrule business decisions that violated our values. Keisha voted yes with the condition that 20% of our work in each city had to serve nonprofits or social enterprises, even if it meant lower margins. Vanessa voted yes with the condition that employee well-being metrics counted as much as revenue in performance reviews. One by one, each team member voted yes with thoughtful conditions that would protect what we had built. When it was my turn, I looked around the table at these incredible people who had taken a chance on a crazy idea. I vote yes. With all the conditions everyone suggested, plus one more. We enshrine in our operating agreement that we can never be sold to a traditional agency or acquired by any company that doesn't share our values. If this grows, it grows as itself, not as something to be absorbed and diluted. Beverly smiled. I vote yes to everything. And I'm proud of all of you for thinking so carefully about how to grow responsibly. We brought Harrison back the next day with our list of conditions. I expected him to push back, to negotiate, to water things down. Instead, he read through our list and grinned. This is exactly why I want to invest in you. Most founders just care about the money. You care about protecting what matters. I accept all conditions. Let's make this happen. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of expansion planning. We needed to find directors for each new city, secure office spaces, build recruitment pipelines, and develop the training program Yuki had insisted on. It was exciting and exhausting and occasionally overwhelming. Finding the right directors was crucial. We needed people who had both creative talent and deep belief in our mission. Beverly tapped her network, and we received over 100 applications. We interviewed dozens of designers, asking them not just about their portfolios, but about their values, their worst professional experiences, and what they would do if a client asked them to compromise their ethics for money. For Portland, we selected a woman named Zara Johnson, a brand strategist who had left a major agency after refusing to work on a campaign for a predatory payday loan company. For San Francisco, we chose Leo Chun, a designer who had spent 5 years doing pro bono work for immigrant rights organizations. For Austin, we found Carmen Rodriguez, who had built her own small ethical design practice, but was struggling to scale it alone. All three spent a month in Seattle, working alongside our team, absorbing our culture, understanding our client relationships. We were open about our struggles and mistakes, wanting them to learn from our experiences rather than repeat our errors. By the end of their training, they felt like family. During this expansion phase, something unexpected happened. Marcus reached out again. This time, it wasn't to apologize or ask for advice. It was to tell me that Pinnacle Creative Agency was closing. After losing more clients and watching his entire creative team quit, he had decided to shut it down rather than continue running a business that made everyone miserable. I wanted you to know, he said over the phone. And I wanted to tell you that you were right. About everything. I built something profitable but poisonous. You built something healthy and sustainable. I'm embarrassed it took me this long to see the difference. I felt a strange mix of emotions. No triumph or satisfaction. Just a quiet sadness for all the years Marcus had spent chasing the wrong things and all the people who had been hurt along the way. What will you do now? I asked. I don't know yet. Maybe I'll retire. Maybe I'll find something new. But whatever I do, it won't be like Pinnacle. I'm done with that model. He paused. I'm sorry, Maya. For all of it. You deserved better. Thank you for saying that, I said. I hope you find something that actually fulfills you. After we hung up, I sat quietly in my office processing. The agency that had once seemed so powerful, so untouchable, was gone. And we were thriving. Not because we had destroyed them, but because we had built something better. There was a lesson in that about how real change happens, not through tearing down, but through building up. The new Purpose Collective locations launched within weeks of each other. Portland opened first, with Zara at the helm, focusing on sustainable businesses and eco-conscious brands. San Francisco followed, with Leo building relationships with immigrant-owned businesses and social justice organizations. Austin came last, with Carmen connecting with the city's vibrant creative community and underserved neighborhoods. Each opening felt like a celebration, not just of business growth, but of values spreading. We held simultaneous launch events in all 4 cities, connected by video. Clients, team members, and community partners gathered to mark this milestone. Watching the screens showing rooms full of people in different cities, all united by a belief that business could be ethical and profitable, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Hector spoke at the Seattle event, his voice carrying across all 4 cities via video. 3 years ago, I was just a guy with a taco cart and a dream. Maya saw me, not as a small client who wasn't worth her time, but as a person with something valuable to offer. She helped me believe my dream mattered. Now I have 3 locations, I employ 12 people, and my mother is moving here next month. That happened because someone chose kindness over profit. That happened because Maya proved that seeing people's humanity isn't weakness. It's the smartest business decision you can make. 6 months after taking Harrison's investment, the Purpose Collective was operating in 4 cities with 32 designers, serving over 80 active clients. Our client retention rate remained at 98%. Our team satisfaction scores were off the charts. And our revenue had grown by 400% while maintaining our ethical standards. But the real measure of success came in stories. Stories like the single mother in Portland, who finally got her bakery off the ground after Zara's team helped her create a brand that reflected her heritage. Stories like the youth arts program in San Francisco that tripled its enrollment after Leo designed materials that made kids feel seen and valued. Stories like the Veteran Support Network in Austin that secured major grant funding after Carmen created a presentation that brought their mission to life. These stories poured in daily, reminding us why we did this work. Every testimonial, every thank you note, every photo of a thriving business was evidence that ethical design wasn't just a nice idea. It was transforming lives. One afternoon, about 8 months after leaving Pinnacle, I received an unexpected email. The subject line read, Pacific Northwest Design Awards nomination. My heart skipped. The Design Awards were the most prestigious recognition in our region. Getting nominated was a huge honor. Winning was career-defining. I opened the email with shaking hands. The Purpose Collective had been nominated in 3 categories: Best New Agency, Most Innovative Business Model, and Designer of the Year, with my name listed. I immediately called Beverly. I know, she said before I could speak. Harrison forwarded me the announcement. Maya, do you understand what this means? You've been in business less than a year, and you're already being recognized at the highest level. This is unprecedented. But the awards ceremony, I said, my stomach nodding. It's a huge industry event. Everyone will be there, including everyone from your past who said you'd fail. Yes, and you're going to walk in there with your head high, with your team beside you, and you're going to show them exactly what unprofessional behavior looks like when it builds something meaningful. The awards ceremony was 3 weeks away. It was held at a grand hotel downtown, a black tie event attended by every major design firm, creative agency, and industry leader in the Pacific Northwest. In the past, I had dreamed of attending. Now, I was not just attending but nominated. The night of the ceremony, our entire Seattle team got ready together at the office. We had decided to arrive as a unit, a family, representing everything we had built. I wore a simple but elegant black dress. Nothing flashy. Nothing trying to prove anything. Just me, confident in who I had become. As we walked into the hotel ballroom, I felt dozens of eyes turned toward us. People whispered. Some looked surprised. Others looked impressed. I spotted several designers I knew from other agencies, people who had heard what happened at Pinnacle and had probably assumed I'd disappeared from the industry entirely. Our table was near the front, a sign of how seriously the awards committee was taking our nominations. We sat down and I looked around the room. It was full of people in expensive clothes, drinking expensive wine, celebrating work that ranged from meaningless corporate campaigns to genuinely impactful community projects. This was the industry I was part of, for better and worse. The ceremony began with the usual speeches and early category awards. We clapped politely, chatted with neighboring tables, and tried to calm our nerves. Then came the category we had all been waiting for, Most Innovative Business Model. The presenter, a well-known agency owner, took the stage. This category recognizes firms that are pushing the boundaries of how creative services can operate. This year's nominees all challenged conventional wisdom about what makes a design business successful. Let's look at the nominees. Our name appeared on the screen along with our submission video. It was a condensed version of the presentation I had given at the conference, showcasing our model and client impact. When it finished, I heard applause that seemed genuine and warm. The presenter opened the envelope. And the winner is the Purpose Collective, led by Maya Torres. The room erupted in applause. Our table exploded with cheers. Keisha grabbed my hand. Tyler was shouting. Vanessa had tears streaming down her face. I stood on shaking legs and made my way to the stage, my team's cheers following me. Taking the award, a beautiful glass sculpture, I looked out at the audience. Hundreds of faces. Some I knew. Some I didn't. All of them watching to see what I would say. Thank you, I began, my voice surprisingly steady. 8 months ago, I was fired from a traditional design agency for what my boss called unprofessional behavior. I was told I was too soft, too emotional, too focused on people instead of profits. I was told I didn't have what it takes to succeed in this industry. I paused, letting that sink in. But here's what I learned. The industry was measuring success wrong. We've been taught that success means high margins, impressive client lists, and individual achievement. But what if success actually means sustainable relationships, meaningful impact, and collective growth? What if treating people with dignity isn't unprofessional? It's the most professional thing we can do. I held up the award. This belongs to our entire team. To Beverly, Keisha, Ramon, Yuki, Tyler, Vanessa, and everyone else who took a chance on a different way of working. It belongs to our clients, small business owners, nonprofit leaders, community organizers, who trusted us with their dreams. And it belongs to every designer out there who's tired of compromising their values for a paycheck. There is another way. We're proving it every day. The applause was thunderous. As I walked off stage, designers from other agencies stopped me to shake my hand, to ask about our model, to express their own frustration with traditional agencies. The energy in the room had shifted. People were hungry for what we represented. But the evening wasn't over. Next came the Designer of the Year category. This was the big one, the award that recognized not just business success, but creative excellence and industry leadership. I sat down, trying to calm my racing heart. The competition was steep. Designers with decades of experience, massive portfolios, industry-changing work. The presenter took the stage again. Designer of the Year is our highest individual honor. It recognizes someone who has not only produced exceptional creative work, but has also elevated the entire profession through their leadership, innovation, and integrity. This year's winner is someone who, in less than a year, has challenged us all to rethink what it means to be a professional designer. I held my breath. Maya Torres, the Purpose Collective. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I had just heard. Keisha was crying openly now. Beverly was on her feet applauding. The entire room was standing, giving me a standing ovation. Me, the designer who had been fired 8 months ago for being unprofessional. I walked back to the stage in a daze. The presenter handed me another award, this one even more beautiful. A sculpture that represented creativity, community, and courage. I looked out at the standing audience, and suddenly I understood. This wasn't just about me. This was the industry saying it was ready for change. Ready to value different things. Ready to evolve. I don't know what to say, I began, my voice thick with emotion. Except thank you. Thank you for seeing that there's room in this industry for designers who care deeply, who cry over client stories, who work late not because they're chasing billable hours, but because they genuinely want to help someone succeed. Thank you for recognizing that our humanity isn't a liability, it's our greatest asset. I looked directly at a table where several Pinnacle employees were sitting. People who had watched me get fired and said nothing. To everyone who's ever been told they're too soft, too emotional, too idealistic for this work, you're not. The world needs your kindness. The industry needs your integrity. Don't let anyone convince you that caring makes you weak. It makes you powerful. The applause seemed to shake the building. As I returned to our table, designers I had never met stopped me, asking for our contact information, expressing interest in learning more about our model. Several said they were planning to leave their agencies and wanted to know if we were hiring. After the ceremony ended, there was a reception with more networking, more conversations, more people suddenly very interested in what we were building. I was talking with a group of young designers when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Iris, the flower shop owner, standing there in an elegant evening dress, holding a small bouquet. Iris, I said, confused. What are you doing here? She smiled mysteriously. I was invited by someone who wanted to be here tonight, but couldn't make it. She asked me to give you these flowers and this message. She handed me the bouquet and a sealed envelope. I excused myself and found a quiet corner to open the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Dear Maya, I wish I could be there tonight to see you receive the recognition you so deeply deserve. But my health has kept me away. I want you to know something I should have told you months ago. When you redesigned my flower shop 3 years ago, I wasn't just a struggling shop owner. I was testing every design agency in Seattle, looking for someone with true integrity to invest in. I had built and sold 3 companies over my career, and I wanted to use my wealth to support designers who valued people over profit. You were the only one who helped me without expecting anything in return. The only one who saw me as a person, not a paycheck. I've been watching your journey ever since, quietly supporting when I could, connecting you with people who could help, and waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. That moment is now. Beverly Lancaster is my sister. When you lost your job, I asked her to offer you the partnership opportunity because I knew you were exactly the kind of leader who could build something transformative. Everything you've achieved has been through your own talent, integrity, and courage. But I wanted you to know that sometimes when we show kindness to others, we're actually planting seeds that bloom in ways we never expect. You changed my life by seeing my humanity. I've tried to repay that by helping create opportunities for you to change many more lives. Thank you for being exactly who you are. With deep admiration and gratitude, Margaret Zhao. I read the note 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Iris, the humble flower shop owner. She was Margaret Zhao, a legendary entrepreneur and investor. And she had been watching me this whole time, guiding my path from the shadows. Beverly was her sister. This entire journey had been shaped by one act of kindness I had shown 3 years ago without expecting anything in return. I looked up to find Beverly standing nearby, smiling gently. She made me promise not to tell you, Beverly said. She wanted you to build the Purpose Collective on your own merit, without feeling like you owed anyone or questioning whether you truly earned it. But she wanted you to know tonight, at your moment of greatest triumph, that kindness is never wasted. It echoes forward in ways we can't imagine. I couldn't speak. I just held the flowers and cried happy tears while Beverly hugged me. Around us, the reception continued, people celebrating and networking and making deals. But in that moment, everything else faded away. I understood now that my entire journey, the struggles at Pinnacle, the secret projects, the firing, the launch of the Purpose Collective, everything, had been part of a larger story about how treating people with dignity creates ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. Keisha found us and saw my tears. What happened? Are you okay? More than okay, I managed to say. I just learned that the universe has a better memory than we think, and that the kindness we put out comes back in the most unexpected ways. That night, after the ceremony, our entire team went to Hector's original taco location. It had stayed open late for us, and Hector had prepared a feast. We sat around pushed-together tables, still in our fancy clothes, eating tacos and celebrating. Clients started arriving. The bakery owners, Christine from the restaurant, Natasha from the nonprofit, the youth center director. One by one, people whose lives we had touched showed up to celebrate with us. This is what success actually looks like, I said, looking around at the crowded taco cart, at the mix of designers and clients and community members all laughing and eating together. Not awards or recognition or industry validation. This. Real relationships. Real community. Real impact. Hector raised his glass. To Maya, who saw me when I was invisible. Who bet on people others overlooked. Who proved that kindness is not weakness. It's the strongest foundation you can build anything on. We all raised our glasses, and in that moment, surrounded by people who had become family, I felt a profound sense of completeness. This was what I had been searching for during all those miserable nights at Pinnacle. This was what design was supposed to be for. Not corporate logos and inflated invoices, but bringing people together, helping dreams become real, building community one project at a time. The morning after the awards ceremony, I woke up to my phone exploding with messages. The design community was buzzing about our wins, but more importantly, about the shift we represented. Articles were being written about ethical design practices. Podcasts were requesting interviews. Design schools were asking us to speak to students about alternative career paths. But the most significant message came from an unexpected source. It was an email from the board of directors of the Pacific Northwest Design Association, the organization that had hosted the conference where I first presented our model and that had awarded us Designer of the Year. They wanted to meet with me about a new initiative they were launching, an ethical design certification program that would help agencies transition to more sustainable, people-first business models. They wanted the Purpose Collective to help develop the curriculum and standards. This is huge, Beverly said when I showed her the email. They're not just recognizing what we've done. They're trying to spread it across the entire industry. Maya, you're not just building a business anymore. You're leading a movement. The weight of that statement settled on my shoulders. A movement. That meant responsibility. That meant people looking to us for answers. That meant we couldn't fail, because our failure would be used as evidence that ethical business didn't work. I gathered the team to discuss it. I'm scared, I admitted. What if we're not ready for this? What if we make mistakes that discredit everything we stand for? Vanessa, of all people, spoke up with wisdom I wouldn't have expected from her a year ago. Maya, you've been scared of everything, starting this business, hiring me, taking investment, expanding. And at every step, you moved forward anyway. That's what leadership is. Not fearlessness, but courage to act despite fear. We agreed to take on the certification project, with one condition. We would develop it collaboratively, involving designers from various types of agencies, not just creating it from our own perspective. Real change had to be inclusive, not dogmatic. Over the next 2 months, we worked with the Design Association to create a comprehensive framework for ethical design practice. It covered everything from transparent pricing to client relationships, from team culture to community impact. We held town halls in all 4 of our cities, inviting designers from traditional agencies to share their challenges and ideas. The conversations were revealing. Many designers in corporate agencies felt trapped. They wanted to do meaningful work, but didn't know how to escape the golden handcuffs of good salaries and prestigious client lists. They were hungry for an alternative, but scared to take the leap. Our certification program became a bridge, a way for agencies to transition gradually, implementing ethical practices step by step rather than requiring a complete overnight transformation. During one town hall in Seattle, a designer from a major agency raised her hand. What do you say to people who argue that ethical design is a luxury? That in a competitive market, you can't afford to turn away clients or charge less than maximum rates? I thought carefully before answering. I'd say they're asking the wrong question. The question isn't whether we can afford to be ethical. It's whether we can afford not to be. Look at what happened to Pinnacle, the agency that fired me. They prioritized profit over people, and ultimately they lost both. They burned through staff, lost clients, and closed down. Meanwhile, our model has higher client retention, lower staff turnover, and stronger profit margins per designer than industry average. Ethics isn't a luxury. It's a competitive advantage. The room broke into spontaneous applause. After the town hall, dozens of designers approached me, asking about job opportunities, seeking advice on starting their own ethical practices, or simply expressing gratitude for showing them another path was possible. One designer, a woman about my age, gripped my hands and said with tears in her eyes, "I've been in therapy for 2 years trying to deal with the moral injury of doing work that contradicts my values. You've given me hope that I don't have to choose between paying my bills and sleeping at night. Thank you." Moments like that reminded me why all of this mattered. We weren't just running a business. We were proving that there was another way to exist in capitalism. Profitable but not predatory, successful but not soul-crushing, ambitious but not ruthless. Around this time, Margaret Zhao reached out directly. Her health had improved, and she wanted to meet in person. We arranged lunch at a quiet restaurant, just the 2 of us. When I arrived, I immediately recognized her. Older now than when I had first helped her flower shop, but with the same warm eyes and gentle smile. "Maya," she said, embracing me. "Finally, we can talk honestly." Over lunch, Margaret told me her full story. She had built 3 successful tech companies, selling each for significant amounts. "But I was never proud of how I did it," she admitted. "I played the game the way everyone said you had to, cutthroat competition, maximum profit extraction, people as resources. I made money but lost my soul. After my 3rd exit, I was wealthy and miserable. I decided to spend the rest of my life proving that business could be different." She had tested over 30 design agencies, visiting each one disguised as a struggling small business owner. Most tried to upsell me on services I didn't need. Some were dismissive. A few were kind but ultimately prioritized their bottom line. Then I met you. You didn't just help me. You cared about my story. You asked about my late husband, about why the flower shop mattered to me emotionally. You saw me as a whole human being. And you gave me your best work for free, expecting nothing in return. That's when I knew, Margaret continued. I had found someone who understood that business is ultimately about human relationships. Someone who couldn't be corrupted by profit motive because their values ran deeper. So I started planning. I connected you with other clients who needed help, creating a network around you without you realizing it. I introduced Beverly to the ethical design model I wanted to fund, knowing she'd be the perfect partner for you. And I watched as you built exactly what I had dreamed of, proof that ethical business works. I was overwhelmed. But why? Why go through such an elaborate plan? Margaret smiled. Because direct charity doesn't create lasting change. I could have just given you money, but that wouldn't have proven anything except that someone with wealth decided to be generous. What needed to be proven was that the business model itself works. That designers can thrive by treating people well. That had to come from you building it, not from me buying it for you. Your success had to be genuine and replicable. And it is. She reached across the table and took my hands. Maya, you've done something remarkable. You've created a template that dozens of agencies are now studying and trying to emulate. You've changed the narrative about what professional design can be. And you've given hope to thousands of designers who thought they had to choose between their values and their careers. That's not because I gave you money. That's because you had the courage to be yourself, even when it cost you everything. I was crying now, not sad tears, but tears of profound gratitude and understanding. I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by continuing to do what you do. And by remembering this lesson when you have the chance to help others. Kindness compounds. The flower shop owner you helped became the investor who created your opportunity. The junior designer you mentored became an essential part of your team. The clients you served for free became your most loyal advocates. None of this was transactional. It was relational. That's the real secret to sustainable success. After lunch with Margaret, I walked through downtown Seattle in a daze. The city looked different now. Every small business I passed, I wondered about their stories. Every storefront was a dream someone had built. Every struggling entrepreneur was another person who deserved to be seen and helped. The world was full of Margarets in disguise. People testing whether we would treat them with dignity or dismiss them as not worth our time. I returned to the office to find the team in the middle of a celebration. While I had been at lunch, we had received news that the Austin branch had landed their first major corporate client, a tech company that wanted to overhaul their entire brand to be more socially responsible and community-focused. It was a six-figure contract, by far the largest project we had taken on. This is exactly what we talked about, Keisha said excitedly. A corporation that wants to be better, asking us to help them get there. This could be a model for how traditional companies transition to ethical practices. But there was concern too. Ramon voiced what others were thinking. Can we trust them? What if this is just greenwashing? What if they want to look ethical without actually changing? We spent the afternoon debating whether to take the project. It represented everything we had dreamed of, traditional businesses seeking our help to become more ethical. But it also represented risk. If we helped them and they didn't truly change, our credibility would be damaged. If we turned them down and they were genuinely trying to evolve, we'd be gatekeeping change. Finally, I proposed a solution. We take the project, but with conditions. We do a full assessment of their current practices. We identify specific, measurable changes they need to make beyond just branding. We build accountability into the contract. If they don't follow through on real operational changes, we don't complete the rebrand and we publicize why. We make them put their money where their mouth is. The team agreed. Carmen in Austin negotiated those exact terms, and surprisingly, the tech company accepted. They wanted real change, not just the appearance of it. This felt like a new chapter, corporations coming to us not to look good, but to become good. That night, I updated my journal. A year ago, I was fired for being unprofessional. Today, I'm leading a movement that's redefining what professionalism means. The journey from there to here taught me that the world doesn't need more people who know how to play the game. It needs people who have the courage to change the rules. And changing the rules doesn't happen through grand gestures or revolutionary violence. It happens through small acts of kindness that compound over time, through treating every person with dignity, through refusing to compromise your values even when it costs you. Margaret tested 30 agencies before she found one designer who saw her humanity. That designer was me, simply because I could not be unkind. And that single interaction changed the trajectory of my entire life. Kindness is never wasted. It's always an investment, even when we can't see the returns. Especially then. 2 weeks later, we hosted an event we called the Gratitude Gathering. It wasn't a formal celebration or a corporate party. It was simply a chance to bring together everyone who had been part of the Purpose Collective story. Clients, team members, mentors, partners, and even a few former skeptics who had come around to our way of thinking. We held it at our Seattle office, but video connected our other locations so teams from Portland, San Francisco, and Austin could participate. The space was packed. Hector brought tacos. Christine brought Korean fusion appetizers. Iris's flower shop provided stunning arrangements. The bakery owners brought desserts. Natasha's program participants served as volunteer event staff, proud to give back to the organization that had believed in them. I hadn't prepared a formal speech. Instead, I just stood in the middle of the room and spoke from my heart. A year ago, I thought my career was over. I thought getting fired meant I had failed. But standing here now, I realized that getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because it was easy or painless, it wasn't, but because it forced me to stop trying to be who others wanted me to be and start being who I actually was. I looked around the room at faces I had come to love. Every person here taught me something essential. Hector taught me that dignity matters more than profit. Christine taught me that authenticity is the strongest brand. Iris, Margaret, taught me that kindness compounds in ways we can't predict. Natasha taught me that our work has consequences beyond aesthetics. Beverly taught me that there are people with power who will use it to lift others up. Tyler taught me that young designers are hungry for meaning. Vanessa taught me that people can change when given the right environment. And all of you together taught me that business doesn't have to be a zero-sum game where someone has to lose for someone else to win. I felt my voice catch with emotion. The Purpose Collective isn't just a design agency. It's proof that another world is possible. A world where success means helping others succeed. Where profit comes from creating value, not extracting it. Where professional means treating people professionally, with respect, dignity, and care. Where kindness isn't weakness, but the foundation of sustainable strength. I pulled out the Designer of the Year award and held it up. This belongs to all of you. But more importantly, what it represents belongs to everyone out there who's been told they're too soft, too emotional, too idealistic. You're not. The world needs exactly what you have to offer. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The room erupted in applause. But then something unexpected happened. One by one, people started standing up and sharing their own stories. A client talked about how our work had saved their business. A designer talked about how joining us had saved their mental health. A nonprofit leader talked about how our pro bono work had helped them secure grants that kept their programs running. Margaret stood, leaning on a cane but with strong voice. I spent 40 years building companies the traditional way, ruthlessly competitive, profit maximizing, treating people as resources. I made millions but lost my humanity. When I met Maya, I was disguised as a struggling shop owner, testing whether she would see my humanity or just see dollar signs. She saw me, truly saw me, and that changed everything. It reminded me that business is ultimately about human connection. Maya didn't just help my flower shop. She restored my faith that ethical business was possible. And then she went out and proved it. What you've all built here is the future of capitalism. If capitalism is going to have a future worth having. The applause was deafening. People were crying openly now, moved by the vulnerability and truth in the room. This wasn't a corporate event with forced enthusiasm. This was a community celebrating what they had built together. Beverly stood next. My sister called me 2 years ago with a crazy idea. She said she had found a designer with integrity who had been fired for being too kind. She asked me to help create an opportunity for this designer to build something new. I thought Margaret was being overly optimistic, but I trusted her judgment. And Maya, you exceeded every expectation. You didn't just build a profitable business. You created a movement that's changing how people think about work, creativity, and human dignity. Then Tyler stood, his voice shaking slightly. A year ago, I was miserable at Pinnacle. I watched Maya get fired for doing the right thing, and I was too scared to defend her. That cowardice ate at me every day. When I finally got the courage to leave and ask Maya if I could join the Purpose Collective, I expected her to turn me away. Instead, she welcomed me. She gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. Working here has taught me that real strength isn't about protecting yourself at others' expense. It's about building something so strong that everyone can be safe together. Vanessa stood next, tears already streaming down her face. I was the person who reported Maya to Marcus. I was the one who stood by and watched her get humiliated and fired. I did that because I thought that's what success required, stepping on others to climb higher. I was wrong about everything. Maya had every reason to refuse when I asked to join this team. Instead, she gave me a chance to become someone better. She taught me that redemption is possible, that people can change, and that being vulnerable enough to admit you were wrong is stronger than pretending you were always right. I will spend the rest of my career trying to deserve the second chance she gave me. The stories continued, each one revealing another thread in the tapestry we had woven together. By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. We weren't just colleagues or clients anymore. We were a family bound by shared values and mutual respect. As the evening wound down and people began to leave, Hector pulled me aside. "Miss Maya, I need to tell you something. Next month, I'm opening my 4th location. And I'm naming it Casa Maya in your honor. Because you didn't just help me build a business. You helped me believe I was worthy of success. That's a gift I can never fully repay." I hugged him tight, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. These were the moments that mattered. Not awards or recognition or industry validation, but genuine human connection. Real impact on real lives. Later that night, after everyone had left and the office was quiet, I sat alone in the community room. The walls were covered with photos from the evening, with sketches and notes from clients, with awards and achievements. But more than that, they were covered with evidence of relationships. Thank you cards, children's drawings from the youth center, photos of grand openings we had helped make possible. I thought about Marcus, about Pinnacle, about the woman I had been a year ago. That Maya had been so desperate to prove herself, so eager to fit into a mold that was never designed for her. She had been slowly suffocating, losing herself piece by piece, thinking that's what professionalism required. But the truth was simpler and more radical than I had understood then. Being professional didn't mean suppressing your humanity. It meant bringing your full humanity to your work. It meant treating every interaction as an opportunity to honor someone's dignity. It meant understanding that behind every project was a person with dreams, fears, hopes, and struggles. And it meant having the courage to build systems that valued those human elements rather than exploiting them. My phone buzzed with a text from Beverly. "Proud of you, Maya. Not for what you've accomplished, but for who you've become. Or maybe for having the courage to become who you always were. Get some rest. Tomorrow we change more lives." I smiled and replied, "Thank you for believing in me, for giving me the space to build something true. Tomorrow and every day after." As I locked up the office and walked to my car, I looked up at the Seattle skyline. Somewhere in this city were hundreds of designers working late in agencies that didn't value them, sacrificing their integrity for paychecks, slowly losing the passion that had drawn them to creative work in the first place. A year ago, I had been one of them. But now I was proof that another path existed. That you could build a sustainable, profitable business without compromising your values. That treating people with kindness wasn't naive idealism. It was the smartest strategy for long-term success. That the skills that made you a good designer, empathy, listening, seeing what others missed, were the same skills that made you a good business leader. The Purpose Collective would continue to grow. We would face challenges and make mistakes. We would have difficult decisions and uncertain moments. But we would face them together, guided by values that had proven themselves not just morally right but practically effective. And everywhere we went, we would leave behind the same message. You don't have to choose between being successful and being kind. You don't have to sacrifice your humanity to achieve your ambitions. You don't have to become someone you're not in order to build something meaningful. The world had told me I was unprofessional. But what they really meant was that I refused to participate in a system that treated people as disposable. That I insisted on seeing the humanity in every interaction. That I believed creativity should serve community, not just commerce. And you know what? They were right. I was unprofessional by their definition. And I would continue to be unprofessional in exactly that way for the rest of my career. Because at the end of the day, when I looked back on my life, I didn't want to be remembered for the biggest clients I landed or the most money I made. I wanted to be remembered for the people I helped, the kindness I showed, and the proof I provided that another way of working was possible. 2 weeks after that gathering, we received an invitation. Not to a conference or an award ceremony, but to something much more significant. The International Design Council wanted us to present our model at their annual summit in Copenhagen. Designers from over 50 countries would be there. It was a chance to spread our message globally, to show that ethical design wasn't just a Seattle thing or an American thing, but a universal possibility. I thought about that scared woman who had walked into Pinnacle 3 years ago, desperate to prove herself, willing to compromise anything for success. She would never have imagined this. She couldn't have dreamed this big. But the woman I had become, the woman who had been fired for unprofessional behavior and had turned that firing into a launching pad, she knew exactly what to do. She would go to Copenhagen. She would tell the truth about what happened. She would share the struggles and the victories. And she would invite designers around the world to join the movement toward ethical, human-centered creative work. Because kindness is never wasted. Integrity is never wrong. And treating people with dignity will always, eventually, be rewarded in ways we cannot predict but must trust. My boss fired me for unprofessional behavior. 2 weeks later, they were all invited to my launch party. And a year after that, I was changing the world. Not because I was special or uniquely talented, but because I refused to stop being kind even when kindness was punished. Because I insisted on seeing people's humanity even when it was more profitable to ignore it. Because I built something based on values that couldn't be corrupted by success. That's the story I want every designer, every creative professional, every person struggling to maintain their integrity in a world that rewards ruthlessness to know. You are not too soft. You are not too emotional. You are not unprofessional. You are exactly what the world needs. And if you have the courage to be fully yourself, to build something true, to treat every person you encounter with genuine dignity and care, you will not just succeed. You will transform everything you touch. And that transformation will echo forward in ways you cannot imagine, touching lives you'll never meet, inspiring people you'll never know, proving over and over that the most radical thing you can do in a heartless world is refuse to stop being kind. That was my story. That is our story. And it's just the beginning.